Hello, and in this IELTS speaking video I'm going to look at the topic describe a person you wanted to be similar to when you were growing up, and I will also look at some part 3 questions connected with this topic. And I've used quite a few collocations, idioms for describing people, so these will be useful for other topics when you're describing a person, and you can always use them in topics where you're not describing a person. You might be describing something you did, and there might be other people you talk about in that topic, and try to get some complex language in there for describing those people. So very useful language in this video. So in answer to this question, you need to say who this person is or was, when you first met or heard about this person, what the person did, and explain why you wanted to be like this person. Now, I've chosen to talk about my father because I think if I pick a famous person, you might not have heard of that person, whereas we can always talk about our parents. And remember, you don't have to tell the truth. So you can create a person like this. This is actually not based on my father at all. There is a little bit of truth in it, but I've exaggerated it just to use the language that I want to use in my answer. So let's take a look. I'm pretty sure there were loads of people that I idolised and wanted to emulate when I was growing up. However, I cannot for the life of me remember who they were. So I've decided to talk about my dad because at some point I probably wanted to be like him. Obviously, I met him when I was born, but I can't remember that first meeting. My first recollection of him is when we were on holiday. I can't remember precisely how old I was, but I'm guessing I was around 5 years old. Anyway, why did I want to be similar to him? Well, he's a good man, basically. One of the main characteristics that I admire is his loyalty. He worked for the same company for over 30 years and never had a bad word to say about anyone who worked there. It is rare to find someone who never talks about others behind their backs, but he never ever did this, and I think this is why he was so well liked and respected at work. His former colleagues still keep in touch with him, and he gets invited to many work functions because he is still highly regarded there. Another reason why I looked up to him, and still do, is that he has a good sense of humour. And I reckon if you can have a laugh and always try to see the funny side of things, then it makes life more fun and much less stressful. I can recall a time when he had resealed the floor in the hallway in our house, and he told me not to walk on it for a few hours. Of course, I totally forgot and walked in and left footprints on the wet floor. I was annoyed at my own stupidity, but when my dad saw what I'd done, he burst out laughing. I try to apply this in my own life, and even when life is particularly challenging, I will try to look on the bright side. It can be tricky at times, but my dad's philosophy of laughing in the face of adversity is a good way to live your life. So let's take a look at some of the language. I'm pretty sure a very useful phrase, meaning I think, I'm pretty sure, I'm certain, I think. Instead of using I think all the time, you need to use others. And I'm pretty sure, I'm guessing. These are all other ways of saying I think. Now, to idolise means to admire very strongly. If you idolise somebody, you worship them, you love them, you admire them, and you want to emulate. And that means be like them, almost like copy them, be like them. I cannot for the life of me remember. This is quite informal expression, just meaning I can't remember. And it's saying for the life of me, so it's like even if you were going to kill me, I wouldn't be able to remember it. So I cannot for the life of me remember. I've decided to talk about, use this a lot in part 2 because it gets the present perfect in there. We often forget to use present perfect, but IELTS examiners like it. So whatever topic you're doing, I've decided to talk about. At some point in my life in the past, obviously it's very good to use these comment adverbs, give your fluency and coherence a higher band score. My first recollection of him, the verb is to recall, which I've used on the next page, and the noun is recollection, and it means memory. I can't remember precisely. I can't remember exactly. Using adverbs makes you sound much higher level, and it will add higher marks to your grade if you're confident with using adverbs. So I can't remember precisely. And I've gone a little bit off topic because I started going on to a holiday and when I remembered, so then I want to get back to the topic anyway. And then I repeat the question, why did I want to be similar to him? Well, he's a good man, basically. So if I'm summarising him in one sentence, I'm saying he's a good man. One of the main characteristics, so in this topic you need to talk about why you wanted to be similar to the person. And it was his loyalty. If somebody's loyal, they are faithful. They are dedicated or devoted to someone or something. We describe dogs as being very loyal, very faithful. And because he worked for the same company for over 30 years, this is a sign of loyalty. He never had a bad word to say about anyone. This is a person who never criticises, never says anything negative about other people. And it's rare, it's not common. Most people are not like this. To find someone who never talks about others behind their backs. If you talk about somebody behind their back, you are gossiping, you are talking about them. His former colleagues, his former workmates, the people he used to work with, still keep in touch with him, are in contact with him. Work functions, these are work events, so it might be a party, a celebration, so things that are organised by a workplace, work functions. He is still highly regarded. If you are highly regarded, it means people think of you highly. You're highly respected. So I want to move on to talk about another characteristic now. So another reason why this gives my answer some organisation. So the IELTS examiner knows you're moving on to something else. I looked up to him. To look up to somebody means to admire, to respect. A good sense of humour, so he finds lots of things funny. Like I said before, I'm pretty sure, I'm guessing, I reckon is another good discourse marker. If you can have a laugh. So if you can have a laugh, it means you are good at laughing and joking and finding things funny. And a person who's like this often sees the funny side of things. And what this means is if there's a bad situation, if you are able to see the funny side of things, you are able to see some humour, some positivity in the bad thing. Remember, the noun was recollection, the verb is to recall. And to reseal, when you have a wooden floor like this, you put a sealer on it. It's like a type of paint that is usually clear, and we call it a sealer. And he had resealed it, so he'd done it again. And I walked on it. This is actually a true story. I did walk on it and he did laugh. Of course, I totally forgot. So instead of just saying I forgot, I completely forgot. I totally forgot. I was annoyed at my own stupidity. When you get angry at yourself for something that you've done that is stupid. He burst out laughing, and this is when somebody just like explodes with laughter. Burst out laughing. I try to apply this, I try to do this in my own life, even when life is particularly challenging. Instead of using the word very, try to remember to use words like particularly, incredibly, especially. To look on the bright side, this means to look on the positive side of things. It can be tricky, it can be difficult, but my dad's philosophy, if you talk about somebody's philosophy, it's their way of living, their way of looking at life. And his philosophy is laughing in the face of adversity. Adversity means difficult things happening, challenging things happening. So if you can laugh in the face of adversity, it means you can laugh even when things are difficult or challenging. So there's a lot of complex language in this topic, but like I said, there's some very useful language for talking about people, for talking about yourself. So I've just put some of these together in a slide just to remind you what they are. So let's take a look at those. So I'm not going to go through all of these again. You have the meanings there and you've got the phrases. Just try to learn 2 or 3. I often get asked, how can I learn all this vocabulary in this course? There are so many words and phrases, but there will be certain ones that are easier for you to remember. So focus on those. Don't try to learn everything. It would be impossible. It's too much. But think of the ones that you think, yes, I can remember that. That's a useful one, and learn those. So let's take a look at some part 3 questions now connected with this topic.